let's go ahead and look at how we can alter the viewable information in the grid or the loop view while we are working. And to do that, we're going to press Command or Control plus J. That's Command or Control and the letter J. Hello everyone, welcome to Lightroom Lite, where we take one feature of Lightroom Classic and understand it in order to make your workflow better and easier. Today we're taking a look at dialing in an exposure or an exposure set. This is a technique I stole from Capture One, which has this as a feature built in, but it is not a built-in or one-click feature in Lightroom, but we can duplicate it. Now what's the idea? Let us say that I have some kind of an image and I want to do some kind of an effect, right? Let's say that I want to brighten it a little bit, but I also want to add some contrast. So I'm going to add in some contrast. I'm going to go a little bit too far. And let's say that I dial in multiple points, right? I've got a highlight point, I've got a shadow point, right? I've got my overall exposure slider at a point that I like, my black point at some amount, my saturation at some amount. And these are a balance, right? The amount of saturation is related to the amount of black point, and the curves adjustment is some relationship between the amount that I made the highlights brighter and the shadows darker, but it's too much. Now, in order for me to adjust this, I could adjust every individual point and try to keep it in balance with each other, but I'm working in very small areas. And so keeping the total mass of edits in balance becomes very, very difficult. And this happens with our global edits a lot. And so it'd be great if I could take my total amount of global edits and just dial them all back proportionately. But there's not an easy way to do that. Here's the trick. Here's how we do it. I'm going to come up to masking. I'm going to then create a range mask and a luminance range. Now with luminance ranges, we click on it and it turns the cursor into a dropper, and we'd be able to sample a part of the image and create a luminance range based on the brightness value we selected. And that works great with a lot of edits, but there's another way we could do this. We have the actual luminance range here, and if you click on one of the handles, we say, okay, I'm going to edit the luminance range manually. And since the handles start at either end, it starts off as a 100% mask. Look at the mask, it's pure white. Since the mask is pure white, we now have a mask of everything, and I could just hit enter or return. Now, initially, this seems like it's not going to do a whole lot for us because we just have a mask of everything. And isn't that the same thing as just editing globally? Initially it is. However, we can do something very clever. If I'm working inside of this mask, all right, and then I come in here and I do, let's say, that tone curve adjustment, right? And I go a little bit too far on my contrast. I like the proportion of these, but it's too much. Now I can simply take the amount slider and dial it down, and I get an amount of this edit that I want. Let's say 20%, and I could actually just type it in if I wanted to. Now that means we can take any edit and we can just ease our way into it, which works amazingly well. This is the global edit, and the only downside to it is that there are some things in the adjust section, the editing section, that don't show up here, such as color grading. It is not an option in a masked region. Now, we could, of course, if we wanted to do color grading, simply do a luminance range off of just the highlights or just the shadows. That would work fine. But when we're talking about a global edit, most things are available. Your basic tool, your color, your point color, your curves adjustment, your effects, most things are here. And so most things can be put into a luminance total mask. When you do that, you can take your edit and just dial it in and out. This is actually a really useful thing to be able to do. I wish they just had this as an edit. For instance, in Capture One, if you do a section of edits, when you come to masking, there is a button that says you can move your edits to their own mask. This is a great feature. I wish Lightroom would actually bring this on, because then we could simply dial our edits in and out. Anyway, if you want to master Lightroom from beginning to end and understand all of the facets of how we use it and work with it as our daily photo editing driver, well, I have an 8-hour course on Udemy. I'll put links to it in the description, of course, but it covers everything you need to know to become incredibly proficient with Lightroom Classic. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.